Hey guys, I am following the Vert Code Elite Jumps program and I've just completed phase 3. The first 4 phases are outlined on the landing page and the focus of phase 3 is improving your concentric rate of force development. The concentric phase of a jump is the second half of the jump where you're exploding up from a crouch position. Rate of force development is important because you only have a short window of time to apply as much force as you can to the ground before takeoff. An example of a typical concentric only exercise would be an explosive jump from a seated position because it's removing the elastic effect of descending into the jump. The sessions in each of the first 6 phases follow a 5-day-a-week training template. Day 3 is where you practice your jumping. Days 2 and 4 are core work and mobility, and we'll start with days 1 and 5 where you're putting the hard work in the gym. Those days start with a pair of drills that focus on agility and change of direction, specifically lateral stepping. Then it's into the gym for a variation on the jump squat. Some of you might be familiar with the use of power cleans or hang power cleans for generating explosive power. When I read through the research papers on vertical jump, it said that a jump squat was comparable to these, and since it's less technical, it's possibly better for people to learn. They also note that for experienced lifters, their peak power will be around 25 to 30% of their max, and here I was using 40 kilos. There's a speed squat in this phase with the goal of completing the movement in 0.5 seconds. You could go out and buy a velocity tracker, but the next best thing would be to film yourself, then pop it into video editing software and just go frame by frame to work out how much time you took. In the first week, I tried a few different weights and recorded them. So here's 75 kilos. From the first movement to the top, I was about 0.65 seconds. If you don't have video set up, then another option is to use a metronome. Just go to Google, type in metronome, and one will come up. 120 beats a minute is 1 every half a second, so that at least gives you a ballpark for the sort of time you have to get up. In sports science, I was taught that it's all about your intention to move the bar as fast as possible. So as long as you're trying to move the bar quickly, that's what counts. There are some risks associated with your feet leaving the ground, which is what was happening to me. But if I try to avoid that, then I'll be slowing my body down before the rep is over and possibly missing some of the benefits. You then had to do some max effort jumps. They're part of a superset, so unless you have a squat rack down at the court, then you're going to need space in the gym to do a running jump. I got a hoop off Gumtree. It was free because it had no base, so with some guttering and a plant pot, it is now set up on my patio. I set it at a height where touching it would be a PB. Out of curiosity, I filmed myself near the hoop and edited it to see how high I can jump relative to my own height. These sessions are quite tiring by the time you get to practice jumping, but I still felt like I was getting near my best. Speaking of my best jumps, they did improve in this phase. A quick reminder that my PB is 68 centimeters, but coming into this program, I tested at 65 centimeters. If you aren't aware, I take a ladder to the court and blue tack a plastic ruler to the hoop so I know exactly how high I'm jumping. Day 3 started with an agility exercise, then a single leg version of the concentric jump I showed you earlier. That was followed by a drill with a sequence of 3 jumps for max height, which involves a crossover step. In the first week, I almost got a PB just from the 2-step approach I did in my warm-up, but annoyingly, I wasn't able to get any closer in the rest of that session. In week 2, I set a new PB of 70 centimeters, 27.5 inches, and that felt great. I was having problems with my right ankle, which is possibly why I found more success jumping left-right. Week 3, I felt sluggish and flat, but was jumping a similar height, and I got the sense that if I was totally fresh, I had another few inches to go. I didn't have long to wait, and in week 4, I opened with a PB of 71 centimeters from a 2-step approach. Then with my first full approach, I knocked the ruler off at 73 centimeters before grazing it at 74. That's an increase of 6 centimeters this phase, which is over 2 inches, meaning my max vert is approaching 30 inches. Moving on to the core work, not a lot to say here. They're good exercises, and the main focus is on anti-ab work. The purpose of the core is often to resist the change in movement, such as anti-rotation or anti-flexion, and variations of exercises like the Palloff press are used here, where the goal is to resist movement of the torso. I had foot and ankle problems in this phase, so I went into the resources section and picked out some foot conditioning drills, which I added a few days a week. I'm also aware that phase 4 will be full of plyometrics, so I've been making sure my ankle is back to 100% by then. If you're planning to do multiple phases, then I would recommend you get access to some good quality resistance bands because they feature quite heavily so far. I had some of the cheap, weak ones, but I paid for 2 sturdy ones and I've enjoyed being able to do the suggested exercises. I'm sure there are plenty of brands, but for reference, these are Bistope, and I have a green and a purple one. I've really enjoyed this phase. I haven't been able to play sports yet, but I could tell if I did return to rugby, then my lateral movement and agility would be so much better. It's a great all-round program, and the more phases I do, the clearer it is the kind of exercise progressions that there are. I will of course be doing phase 4, which as I said is mainly plyometrics, but it does include the odd weighted exercise like RDL. If you're itching to find out how I'm getting on, you can follow me on Instagram or check out my training log, which I've linked to in the description below. Thanks for watching.